This lesson is the art of knowing when to walk away. Why do you need to know when to walk away from situations in life? Now, in a nutshell, it's all about economy of time. Time is the most precious resource that we have. My experience in this area comes from direct sales and fundraising. I used to and still do work on a commission in these areas. Now, I've done this for 5-6 years. I've done it all over the world, London, Sweden, Australia, and I've learned many valuable lessons from it. One of the primary lessons I learned was in this area of using my time wisely. It took a while to learn the lesson, but I'm going to try and summarize all the important points of it in this little video for you today. Where this problem presented itself, I'd be working, hustling as hard as I could all day, every day, speaking to every single person who walked past me, trying to get them to talk to me. And I'd end up getting a customer to me, and I'd sometimes spend over an hour talking to one customer. It could be about the smallest package that my company sold. I'd push and push and push to try and get that sale out. And I'd use a lot of time on this one customer. Obviously not a very wise use of time in hindsight, but again, it took me a little while to work this out. Before I go on, please give us a like down in the corner of this video. It's really good for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to our channel for more awesome content. And also, in the description, click the link to our website. Go sign up to be part of our community on there, because that'll give you first access to our Foundations course, which is an amazing course we've got coming up. Go do that now and you will not regret it. What was happening to me in these situations where I'd spend more than an hour on somebody and not want them to walk away without having something to show, this is actually called sunk cost fallacy. Now, you probably have an idea of what it is just from that description, but to give you another idea or example of it, let's say you bought concert tickets to see your favorite artist for $20. Turned out the show was 3 hours away, you'd accidentally booked it in the wrong town, it was a monsoon, you didn't have a car, and you were sick, but you thought you'd invested that $20. That was money gone out of your pocket, so you definitely made the effort to go and see this gig, and in the process you made yourself worse and hospitalized yourself through sickness. This is just another example of sunk cost fallacy. I saw many other sellers doing this same thing, and I saw many other people in multiple industries having this same problem. It was very common that people would not know when to walk away. What ended up happening for me is I got the opportunity to work with some amazing sellers, the top sellers around the world in the company I was working for. And there was a pretty common thread between them. I watched them, they'd probably speak to about the same amount of people I did. They'd interact with a similar amount of people. But they wouldn't pitch anywhere near the amount of people I was. I was pitching every person who'd come past me. I was amazed because I was hustling as hard as I could every day, all day. What ended up happening is I watched them for a while and I started to recognize that they were just using pattern recognition and drawing on their skill set to realize the different emotional situations people were in based off the way they moved, their body language, the way they were interacting with the world around them. And they were asking just a couple of basic questions. If the person didn't fit the qualification, then they'd move them on. They'd have a nice brief little chat and they'd send them on their way with a warm goodbye. They'd always make sure, which is really good, that the person would walk away feeling better than when they walked up. I tried to identify what they were doing better than me. Obviously, I wasn't able to mimic or use the experience that these sellers had because they'd been in the job for ages. They'd had a wealth of experience that I didn't have at that point. So I turned back to what you call the law of averages and my hustle. I ended up keeping up with the top sellers by pitching about 6 times as many people as they were. So in my naive experience levels, what I'd do is I'd be pitching between mouthfuls of food. I'd come to work early, I'd have my packed lunch, if I had to go away from the stand for any reason, I'd sprint. I'd be at world championship sprinting speeds to get back to the stand and make sure I had the hours of the day to work with. Again, it's not the most efficient or economical way to work, but it's how I managed to gain my experience really quickly by failing a lot. The big difference here is those top sellers knew where to spend their time wisely. They knew how to walk away from situations that they could see weren't going to be advantageous to them. This applies to everything in life. After that point, I began to dedicate my time to learning how to spend my time wisely. And I realized I had to know how to walk away from these bottom-feeding situations, these people who'd walk up to the stand or walk past the stand who had no interest or no need to buy what it was that I was selling. So when I started to recognize this, it was like an awakening moment. I was becoming a Jedi at that point. And so what happened from then on is I dedicated my time to being as economical as I possibly could. Again, guys, if you haven't already, please chuck a like on the video. It really helps with the YouTube algorithms. What happened after this awakening is I started to see exponential growth in my sales. I was putting in, I would say, less effort as far as hustle, but my focus was refined. The sales that resulted were incredible off what seemed like less energy. It all came down to focus, watching, understanding, active listening, many other things that you can learn in our foundations course. Click the link in the description if you don't know what that is. And it made a huge difference to me all around to understand when to walk away. What became prevalent to me is that all people are the same under their skin. Everybody seemed to have the same emotional patterns who I spoke to. They'd all have the same humor, the same psychology. Really humbling when you're in this experience to talk to absolutely everybody around you. Realize they all laugh at the same jokes. So it all came down to pattern recognition. It didn't matter who I was talking to. It was the same set of basic questions that I'd ask, which would determine whether I'd invest my time wisely here or invest my time more wisely somewhere else. So I'm going to give you a bit of an analogy that I used to use now. And it's a bit rich because this is a vegan giving a fishing analogy. But what I'd liken it to is when you're trying to deal with lots and lots of people and gain cold leads from it, it's a little bit like fishing. So the skills that were required in this situation was patience, which I hear is something you do when you fish. I've never done it, but there you go. You also need a really good rod and you need quality bait. So what I was doing was I was casting my quality bait out on the rod, and I was letting the bottom feeders just swim past. Wherever I was, there was always fish, but the majority of them were bottom feeders and useless fish that you wouldn't want to catch. But I knew after all this experience eventually that there was always a few marlin around. Now those marlin, they'd be swimming around the different places, but if I caught one of those bottom feeders on my line, chances are that it'd still be hooked and thrashing about right as the marlin was cruising past. And there was nothing I could do once the bottom feeder was hooked on the line. I'd just have to watch as that marlin swam past, knowing that my opportunity had just swum past. I'd invested my time in the wrong area. So if I'd just known in hindsight to not catch that little bottom feeder, let it swim away. In hindsight, it's really easy to see the picture here, to be able to walk away from situations that aren't advantageous to you and to catch the big marlin. That's what we're all aiming for, and with the focus and effort and patience, life becomes much easier. Don't fret the small stuff, guys. Know when to catch the marlin, know when to walk away from the bottom feeders. It takes time to understand when to walk away, but when you do have situations that aren't advantageous to you and people around you, you've got to know when to cut it and to walk. This will help you and those people around you. It'll bring positivity into your life like nothing else. Please give us a like for the content if you like it, or if you don't like the content, chuck a like on the like thing just to let us know that you don't like the content anyway, a thumbs up. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. My name's Matt, and we do have the course link in the description, so if you go and click on there, join up to be part of our community at Success by Process, you'll get first access to our foundations course, and there's lots of other cool stuff on there like blogs and everything. Thanks again for being here, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.